With me now is Neil MacKinnon. He is a global macro strategist at VTB Capital. He's been one of the most accurate forecasters of UK GDP. Now, Neil, I have to say, I know that you're extremely accurate. You came in with 0.3%, which was actually below the average of everyone that Bloomberg spoke to. So you were pretty close.
Yes, my crystal ball this time wasn't as well polished as it has been on previous occasions, but yes, a little bit softer than even I was expecting. And I think that it's not surprising. I mean, we're coming out of a balance sheet recession, very difficult economic and financial crisis. The UK economy has lagged behind the US economy, for example, and in terms of the global recovery which is taking place, we're at the end of the queue. So today's news on economic growth is a little bit disappointing, it has to be said.
Now, it has to be put into context, of course, with the other figures that were out this week, a whole raft of figures about debt, unemployment. Overall, those figures don't look particularly strong, and they're also imbued with a much more important focus because these are the last economic figures out before general election.
Well, absolutely, and I think that for voters, the main concern will be the jobs market, and as we saw earlier in the week, the unemployment numbers were at a 16-year high. And I think as a result, with unemployment still rising, I suspect that voters will tend to discount GDP numbers. It doesn't really mean a great deal to voters. It's not really relevant. What is relevant is money in people's back pockets, availability of jobs, confidence in getting a job, confidence in keeping a job. And I think on all those counts, confidence is quite low at the moment. So it's touch and go as to whether the government actually derives any electoral benefit from the economic numbers that we're getting in the run-up to the election.
Well, certainly last night in Gordon Brown, in the televised debate, talked about jobs, jobs, jobs all the time. Very keen on making it sound like there's going to be lots of them, but of course there's nothing in the numbers that actually says that. I suppose the question is, all three of the parties are skirting around the major issue, which is that whatever happens after May the 6th, the UK has a huge problem with cutting its deficit, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And whoever is in power faces a major economic problem, which is the challenge of getting the government's overdraft, if you like, budget deficit, and the level of debt back under control, and it's going to be very, very difficult. I would hope that in the first instance the right thing to do would be to secure sustainable economic growth. Slash and burn policies, as we've seen practiced in Ireland, for example, have led to a 20% contraction in the economy. Those sorts of slash and burn policies, in my opinion, are not really sensible, and I think it's important to get jobs up, get economic growth back on track, plus a credible medium-term commitment to getting our fiscal policy, our budget policy back on track.
So is it okay then not to touch the deficit in the first year?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think there's a real danger, and we're seeing it in the Eurozone at the moment, where the application of stringent budget targets, like in Greece, Spain, Italy, can actually backfire. What it does is actually reduce economic growth, which means that unemployment goes up, which means the government has to pay out more benefits, gets less tax revenues, and inadvertently the budget deficit even gets worse. So that's not entirely sensible. I think if you can get the economy back on track, get some sort of economic growth, then you've got a better chance. It doesn't mean that you can skirt the issue of public spending cuts. So hopefully you would avoid tax increases. I think that would be particularly damaging. But you can't get away from whether you even get the economy back on track year one, year two. You've still got to address the budget deficit, because the financial markets actually don't have any sort of time frame that is over the long term. They want to see some sort of credibility, some sort of action now.
Neil, thank you very much indeed for that.